All right, welcome to You Guys See This Movie podcast. The two guys like to talk about movies as well as the deeper things that make these stories more than just a movie. Today we are going to talk about
The Breakfast Club. John Hughes written and directed 1985 movie. Would you like a synopsis?
I thought you were just going to go into it.
I can. The film tells the story of 5 teenagers from different high school cliques who serve a Saturday detention overseen by their authoritarian vice principal.
Oh, authoritarian vice principal. I like how they put that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if that is something you like and you like to talk about The Breakfast Club as well as other movies, please like and subscribe and let us know what you think about The Breakfast Club. So, you, as we discussed earlier, you were at this age when this movie came out.
Yeah, I was a teen.
So you were a teen.
1985. I graduated in 1984 from high school. And let me tell you about this movie at the time.
Okay.
Don't remember a thing at all. I don't remember seeing this in the theater.
Really?
I don't.
Wow.
It's funny. Some movies really stick with you. And it's like, oh, I remember that experience in the theater with that person watching that movie. I don't have it with this movie.
Not with this one, huh? Yeah, because you're the prime audience of this film.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, this movie so relates to me. Did they do a good job capturing what high school looked like in the early 80s?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe that's why does it seem odd to you? Not to me. It seemed pretty much normal high school 1980s. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So for me, this was a movie I can remember. I always heard a lot about it, but I don't really remember ever someone telling me what this movie was about.
Well, it's not about breakfast.
But it was, but it was always like, oh, The Breakfast Club. Have you seen The Breakfast Club? Or when are you going to see The Breakfast Club? And, so I had like one friend that would just, he liked this movie a lot. And, he just would always talk about it. And then one day it was on television and I'm like, oh, I can finally see it. And I watched it and I was completely surprised because for some reason it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. The big thing was I didn't know that the whole movie was going to take place one day, one location.
Yeah, that's the thing that really makes this movie stand out. Is like you think of like a teen 80s teen movie. They're all over town and going to the, going to the lake and the local hangout and school and there. But no, this is just in detention.
So I can remember watching this movie, and so even though it wasn't what I expected, I still was always thinking, oh yeah, they'll eventually leave the school. And by the time the movie ended, before we get that iconic shot of Bender, I legit thought the movie was just going to keep going. And they were going to have like what the next day The Breakfast Club was going to be up to.
Yeah, see how, that sounds vaguely familiar as if, you will see them on the next day and they're all going to give each other like high signs at the, in the hallway as they pass each other, right?
So I guess for me it was, I didn't realize like, oh wow, they never left the school, or oh wow, this was all in one day until the very end of the movie when I was like, huh. So it wasn't an issue. Like I enjoyed it. I liked watching it. And again, it was on television, so they took a lot of stuff out. And but yeah, that was my thing, and I finally watched it. And
well, it's not very long either. It's only like an hour and a half, right? So you would really be caught off guard thinking that, oh, it hasn't been that long,
right?
So there's got to be more.
There's more,
yeah.
And I wanted more. I wanted to see where these characters went and what they did, and how they all became friends. And
these on TV, so the TV.
I did,
yeah. Maybe I saw it on TV. Nah. I must have saw it earlier than that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it was that time period when I was just wrenching on cars and building stuff. I didn't get out a lot. Like go out.
Right.
I did like youth group stuff. That was pretty much the extent of my social activities. But I just missed it. Maybe I missed it when it came out. Huh. I just caught the big ones. Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was a movie, like for me, when I think back of my childhood and I think back of looking forward to when I get older, or it's all these like John Hughes 80s movies because I saw these as a kid, as a little kid, maybe, 5th or 6th grade, thinking this is what high school was. These are the guys I'm looking up to, or I'm going to be someday. And so, yeah, so it was always the 80s movies that is what I thought what high school was going to be, but it really was not. A whole different thing in the late 90s for me.
Well, what's the other one? I'm thinking of the opening where all the kids are going to school. John Hughes. What was that movie?
Some Kind of Wonderful?
No. It's
Pretty in Pink?
No, the other one.
16 Candles.
Yes.
Okay.
That was like 80s, like over the top kids.
That's a good
vibe. Yeah, if you want like a little bit of a cartoonish. I don't know. I don't think it even was very cartoony. It was pretty much. Yeah.
So so you would say this was a good depiction of
80s
I think so, high school.
Yeah. Because I knew guys like Bender.
I was just going to bring that up. So let's talk about him.
Yeah.
Because I feel like everyone knows a guy like Bender.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes you meet them and you know them and they're kind of cool and they kind of smile and they joke with you. But man, they can turn.
They're wild cards.
Yeah. And then go off on you.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was to the point to where it's like he was kind of pure chaos. You know, like he's coming in, he's knocking things off, taking the phone off the hook. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
But he's also very intelligent.
Yeah.
Like he can read people really well.
Mm-hmm.
And he can, he knows how to push those buttons on everyone.
Yeah.
And he doesn't care.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he definitely comes off as a very highly intelligent person that if he applied himself, he'd be
like
incredibly smart.
Said.
Yeah, he'd be incredibly smart. Which character did you identify the most with?
You know, it's funny. I was thinking about that. For me, it would have been the Andy, Emilio Estevez character. Now, I wasn't a star athlete by any means, but I was an athlete.
That was your world.
That was my world. Yeah. And even, just hearing stories with my dad, like in the beginning when the dad's like, I did things like this, but I didn't get caught.
Yeah.
And, just that understanding.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely Andy. What about you?
Oh, Brian. Brian. Yeah. Yeah. Although I wasn't really involved in clubs and stuff, I really kept to myself. But yeah, that would have been,
So you're friends with the janitor?
I wasn't even friends with the janitor.
Janitor Carl.
But I would say, of all of them, I was definitely the geek, the nerd that got. Although he got good grades though, he can handle it. Yeah, I got average grades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bender he's definitely. He's like I don't know, you've never seen it, or maybe you have, The Dark Knight with Joker.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Bender would have ended up being that Joker.
Yeah.
Later on in the future, if he would have continued his ways, but and then you've got the two ladies, Molly Ringwald, which was like the it girl of that time.
Yeah, she was in everything.
Yeah, and Ali Sheedy plays Allison because Claire and Allison.
And her character's fun.
Yes, and that's another Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've known all these characters. Like I've known people that were these types of people. Like even Allison, who was like just kind of weird and.
Yeah, she's more of like you would describe her today as being like a goth, but she really wasn't a goth. She was more. No. She was more of a beatnik, kind of just a beatnik oddball artist because she could draw, right? She had the drawing she was working on. So she's obviously good.
It's interesting because they all, what this movie really does is it hammers the idea of identity. Like it really is just like they're walking, like even in the beginning of the movie when, he says like, oh, there's the jock, the outlaw, or the criminal, the brain, the princess, the basket case. It's almost as if their identity has been placed on them. Not even knowing that that's what their identity is, but that's why I love this movie because it just really breaks down those barriers and how even though they're all their own thing, they're all very similar to each other. So in the way that like Brian and Bender, they're both in a sense it's invisible. You know what I mean? Like they're the same size of the two sides of the same coin. Like Bender, even Emilio says, no one will care if you're not even here.
Right.
You could say the same thing about Brian. No one will care you're not even here. But yet Brian's completely different. He's smart. Bender's not. Well, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then too, even the two popular people, Claire and Andy, they're popular, but Bender is also popular, just not for the same reasons.
Yeah, I mean, they're popular within their own
right.
their own cliques, their own stereotype.
Bender and Allison are both outcasts.
Yeah.
But yet still vastly different.
Yeah.
So they're all similar and I think that's what this movie does really well is they come in as individuals or in their individual identity, their own clique, their own thing, but throughout the movie you start seeing little things that, oh no, they are connected. They're not too different from each other.
Yeah, I mean people fall into what their interests are.
Mm-hmm.
If you're into science and model rockets and physics, then you end up with the nerds.
Well, you're a nerd, yeah, or a brain. Right?
Yeah, but it's like then you're interested in those things. You're not interested in the latest pair of tennis shoes and the coolest jacket.
Right.
You don't care about this stuff.
Yeah.
So then at that point, then other people who are, they're into fashion or the latest trends, then they label that person as a geek or a nerd because they're not following the latest fashion and stuff.
Right. Whereas Claire is the fashion person. That's why she's popular. She's got the money, the fashion.
Yeah.
Andy's just popular because he's good at what he does. He's the wrestling jock, so his name's well known.
Right, but he takes on the whole whole persona of being that that stereotype where he's he's got the jacket, he's got the, I don't know, what else has he got? Got the weights in his bag. No, he doesn't have weights in his bag. No, but he just has
all the food.
The food, yeah. Yeah.
But and also too, like the like little individual roles that they all kind of place. Not individual roles. I don't know what I'm saying with that, but I mean like sub roles. Like Andy, he takes on that role of the protector.
Yeah.
He's trying to protect everybody, and Claire kind of eventually kind of has that mom role that she's like putting on makeup.
Yeah.
To them, and so there's all these like little like things that that they're not who they are perceived to be.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just that John Hughes, it's amazing how John Hughes can write these movies and then make them, and then yet there's so many layers to them.
Well, I mean, and even like you talk about like the first layer is they're all showing up for detention and their parents are there, and then you get a picture of everybody's parents.
You do, like right from the start, yeah.
So I mean, at that point, is like, are these kids basically just a product of their parents?
Ooh, that was one of the things I was gonna bring up. Mm-hmm.
But it's almost like you can blame, you can focus the blame of their behavior based on the way their parents treat them, I guess.
No, that opening scene tells the whole story on all these people.
Yeah.
Brian gets yelled at and tells that he has to study while he's in detention.
Yeah,
better study something.
And he's got pressure from his parents to do a certain thing.
Yeah, the dad's like, you got caught. Allison's parents just leave her. And then Bender has no parents. He's walking on his own.
Yeah. Bender's smart.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a sense of responsibility, but he's obviously, but he's just messed up. He's got horrible parents.
Here's the thing. Like, I was trying to think, like, I think if that was school today, if parents aren't going to make the kid go to detention, no kid's going to come to detention.
Right.
So to me, it was almost like me, like psychoanalyzing him. It was him coming to detention better off than being home.
Exactly. exactly.
And facing his parents.
Yeah, it's like, well, what am I going to do today? Yep. You know, I can go hang out at the liquor store, or I can be at home, which is basically just sheer torture for him. You know, it's a horrible place to be.
And he probably does have friends, but even his friends probably are always nervous to be around him.
Yeah, and actually, probably his friends probably aren't even.
Yeah,
generally speaking, probably aren't as intelligent as he is. So, you know, he's going to go to detention. There's going to be some interesting people there. I can
ruffle feathers.
I can ruffle some feathers, and you know, well, it's like Allison. Didn't she said at the end of the movie, or was she joking that she didn't do anything? She just,
oh yes,
I had nothing else better to do, so I came here, right? So was it real, or was she faking?
What did you? Nothing. I just had nothing else better to do.
Okay, so I wasn't sure if that was truthful or not, but either way, it's funny, right? Yeah.
They yeah. So that whole parent scene in the beginning is pretty good, and it even, you know, I don't want to just keep harping on Bender because they're all great characters, but it goes back to when they're all talking about their parents, right? And Bender talks about his situation, and no one believes him. And that, to me, that was the first time you kind of see Bender crack.
Yeah,
because I think he wanted someone to believe him. You know, like you don't believe me, and like you could see it in his eyes.
Yeah,
like, Judd Nelson does a good job playing this character. And yeah, it's just kind of breaks his heart almost. Like,
yeah, because he's kind of reaching out. He wants people to know, hey, you know, I'm a jerk, but how can I not be a jerk if I'm dealing with this every day?
Right.
Where do you think Bender ended up 20 years from that character?
I was actually, so I guess there was supposed to be 2 sequels after this movie. They were supposed to, they wanted to do one every 10 years.
Yeah.
And I guess John Hughes had fallen out with like almost everyone, like the whole cast.
Yeah.
But it makes me wonder, what did Bender do? But my guess is that he probably got lucky. You know, he got in the right situation. I doubt he would be in jail. And he probably got lucky and got a good job. And
yeah, because I think the fact that he realized he's very self-aware of his situation and why he's doing what he's doing, and sees his parents as being bad people,
right,
is enough to make somebody say, I'm not going to live my life like that.
Yes.
I'm going to turn it around. I'm not going to be my parents. So I can see him turning things around, you know.
I don't see
rather
him.
Than because like a lot of guys like that, they're making bad decisions because they just don't make good decisions in the first place, and they're getting themselves in trouble. But he's kind of a product of his parents, and he's angry, and I think that, you know, he'll reach a point in his life, soon in his life, where he'll turn it around.
Yeah.
Okay, how different would this movie be if, and I know it's not the movie, but like if the vice principal, what was his character's name? I forgot what his name was.
Mr. Vernon.
Mr. Vernon. If he was like genuinely a nice guy that wanted to help.
So I was going to ask you that. It
wouldn't work for the movie.
Is
but I'm just
Vernon
saying,
the villain?
He is the villain.
He is the villain.
He is the villain. Yeah,
okay.
Because he doesn't care about these kids, who they are, where they come from, why they're there. He just has a very superficial sort of.
Well, he's kind of like in torture too, because he has to spend his Saturday there. Which he dressed mighty nice to be coming in on a Saturday watching kids.
Say, is he the principal? No, the principal doesn't come in on Saturday. No. But the vice principal does.
And you know, let me speak for all the vice principals in America, for the couple vice principals that I've known.
Yeah,
that is definitely because all the vice principals are in charge of discipline. So they are always the bad guy. Yes, at least the schools that I've worked at. They're always the bad guy.
They're the ones that
not the principal, the vice principal. So they're the ones that handle discipline.
So good cop, bad cop is the principal, vice principal.
Yes, and it's all a stepping stone to eventually be a principal.
Yeah,
but at least some of the vice principals I know said they don't like their job because the only interaction they get with these kids is negative.
Yeah.
So, not this to say, you know, Vernon he had better intentions, but I did feel bad for him because he's probably been at this job for a while and he's had to deal with Bender for so long that eventually you snap.
Did you feel like a little something for him?
I kind of do.
See, I'm not at all,
bit.
man. I think that guy's been like that his whole life.
So you think
that's what I get from.
Well, even when he's having that with the wise janitor Carl, he's having that conversation with him. He says, like, I know you. Like, you thought this was going to be an easy job, and it didn't turn out the way you thought it was going to be.
Okay, maybe, yeah.
You know, like,
I don't know. He's such a jerk.
Which did you notice that the janitor's picture in the beginning of the movie?
I did. I caught that right away. Yeah. And I never before, but when they were going through the pictures in the yearbook, I'm like, hey, that's the janitor guy.
Right.
Yeah.
He was the man of the year. But so I don't know. I don't know about Vernon because he definitely was a jerk.
Yeah.
Because in the very beginning, I can kind of see it like, okay, yeah, he's, establishing dominance.
Yeah.
Let's get this done. But then he's doing weird stuff like, getting mad at Andy because, they put the magazine rack in one area and then they, had to put it back and he's getting mad at him. But then he locks Bender in the closet, which is, gosh, he'd be put in jail so fast.
So do you think Brian's letter was the turning point in Vernon's life where he's like, wow, I never thought of it that way. I'm going to turn over a new leaf. I'm going to be the nice guy.
I doubt it.
Doubt it? No.
I think at that point that maybe he realized I have no power.
So so at that point, do you think he probably like, I'm out of here. I'm going to go sell cars.
And that's why, right. And that's why he probably lost it with Bender. It's because really the only power he has is what the parents can enforce. If the parents aren't enforcing anything,
nothing
he has no power.
Yeah.
And I think that's why he had all this. And like you wanted to, I wonder if he ever did go
beat him up. No.
Fight him.
No.
Yeah.
You get his suit dirty.
Get his suit dirty. But I wouldn't doubt it if there are teachers that are just sometimes like, if that kid ever finds me out after he graduates,
yeah,
I'll punch that kid in the face.
Yeah. You talk about the music. Pretty iconic song.
So was that song made for this movie?
I did look it up.
Okay.
I did look because I know, and I remember that song being a huge hit. Don't You
Still is.
Forget About Me, Simple Minds. So when we talked about doing this, I looked it up and I was like, man, what album was that off of? And then you do like a quick Google search and like, oh, it's off the
oh, you have it.
The Once Upon a Time album, which I actually own. Oh. And I'm looking, I'm like, I don't remember that song being on this album, and it's not. So whoever said that it's on this album, it's not on this album.
Google.
No, but it was the same time period. So I did look it up, and what was his name? Keith Forsey, who was a composer on the film, wrote the song.
Mm-hmm.
And then he approached these Simple Mind guys to record it for the movie. And they're like, no way. We record our own music. We're not going to do this. Mm-hmm. So he shopped it around to several different like pop artists, big names in pre-production, and they all turned it down. Some they just couldn't do it because they were doing other albums. And so it finally came around. He's like, come on, Simple Minds guys. Can you do this? Can you record? And they're like, nope. It's like, yeah, but it's John Hughes and it's, it's like American teenagers and their problems and stuff. And they're like, well, we don't care about that. So he kept pursuing it and he got to know, I don't know the lead singer's name, but he got to know him a little better and they kind of became friends. And they're like, all right, we'll record the song. So they recorded the song and, they kind of give it their own Simple Minds twist and it was a hit. It blew up.
Hit. And I think it's their biggest song, right?
Yeah, and they released it as a single that year. Number 1 on the charts. Didn't make it to the album, but it was like a number 1. So yeah, they were huge back then.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
That it's still a big hit today.
Yeah.
The youngins.
Yeah, and even because
like,
it is.
Have you ever heard of this song?
And it is iconic for the movie because it was written for the movie.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Until just until you said that.
Yeah.
But it made me think about when I was watching it last night. Like, It does. It plays, yeah, the words like "Don't forget about me." It plays
Yeah.
with the whole concept of this movie.
You know, and at the end of the song where he does the la 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 part,
Mhm.
those are supposed to be lyrics he was going to write to fill in, but they just, this works, leave it. Yeah. As he was adding his own twist to the song. Yeah. I'll figure out what this last part's going to say later.
Right,
but
right.
It never did. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, they're cool. Like I said, that was probably one of my favorite 80s bands was Simple Minds.
Mhm. So one thing I just learned too about this movie, and you probably already know this, so this is not a did you know, but I didn't know. I know John Hughes always likes to film Chicago area,
Oh, yeah.
and this was filmed at a high school.
Was it Chicago? I didn't even look it up.
Yeah, Chicago.
Oh, it is. Okay.
And it was filmed at a high school, which later became a police department.
Yeah.
But they did not film this in the library.
It was way too cool of a library if it was all.
Well,
That's what I mean.
the library, it is a remake of their library, a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
But they filmed it in the pool, the gym of that school. So they rebuilt the library in the gym.
Okay. Because it was massive. I mean, it was.
It was too big of a library.
Yeah.
And that was it. They liked the look of the library, but it was small. They couldn't get everything in there.
Yeah.
So
they had the big art sculpture and the balconies for the dance scenes and. Yeah.
The rage dance scene.
Where he breaks the window.
I read that was John Hughes' only like regret of this movie.
That he put that in.
Right.
Because then at that point when he does it, it's like, okay, is this like a screwball comedy now? Because that would never happen.
Right.
Yeah.
But even just like, the whole like rage dancing and like Emilio Estevez is going crazy.
Yeah.
Rivals Footloose.
Does it rival Footloose?
Sure.
I mean, Footloose is like, it was a little taste of Footloose. Footloose is all over the place. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So this, like I said, it was filmed in a high school. I don't know if you know this, but about a couple of years ago, they were going through some old files of that school and they found a script from the movie. Like that they left it in the school.
Oh, it just ended up being at the school.
And it was, and it was an early script with a bunch of like notes and revisions. And they just found it. They said some of the names were different in the movie and they.
So did somebody like pick it up and just threw it in with the school records and papers, I guess?
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
That's
like
crazy.
What a crazy find that would be.
Dang.
And I think it was like 2015. Someone just came across it. Going through old files of the old school. Because, now it's a police department.
Yeah. But what's this peanut butter sandwich? That's Brian's peanut butter sandwich from Breakfast Club.
That
and people that search locations and see if they can find little pieces of movie memorabilia. You heard of people doing that? Like, they'll go to location and
I've heard of people doing that.
Wait, have you done that? Of course you have. What locations have you visited to look for? You're making a funny face. So when? So
maybe there's a little piece of plaster that I assumed was from Ape City and Planet of the Apes.
Well, it probably is. It's got to be, right? Do you still have it?
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Well, I think I do.
Yeah.
I have to look. I'm pretty sure I know where it's at, but
I don't know. Just like you're finding a script and it's at the location. Like, what else are you going to find?
Right.
Yeah.
So let's dive into the end of the movie, because this is where, like, for the most part, this movie's kind of lighthearted, kind of goofy. You see them getting into the drugs and you see them, leaving the room, all that kind of stuff. But at the end, it gets very serious. And I feel like it gets serious. It kind of catches you off guard. You know what I mean? Like it kind of comes out of nowhere when they're really talking about,
like, are they going to see each other when the next day?
When they're going to see each
before then.
Well, a lot of that, like when you get to like Andy's, why he's, and I like how you kind of find out while they're.
Yeah, you find out why they're in there.
Right. And you get to Andy's, who, he's just felt so bad. And he had a genuine, he was sorry for, for what he did, but he was also like aware why he was sorry. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there's kids that will do stupid stuff that will hurt other kids and be like, "Oh, sorry, I shouldn't have done that." But he was very aware. Like he put himself in the shoes
of the person that was offended,
of the kid.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you know, and he says, "What would have been like for him to go home to his parents?"
Yeah.
And to say like, "This happened to me."
Yeah.
And it's just very like
well, it was eye opening for him.
It was eye-opening.
Yeah, it's like you reached that point where it's like don't do something to somebody else that you wouldn't have done to you.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know that was like a turning point in his life because he's probably goofing around and he finally realized like, oh no, I'm growing up. Like I can't be doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sorry not because I'm in trouble. I'm sorry because I'm gonna lose my ride.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry because I hurt that kid.
Yeah. Well, then Brian confesses that
Yes.
he was to a point where he was going to kill himself, that he felt so like distraught over getting a bad grade, like life wasn't worth living.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, he lightened the mood by saying that he brought a flare gun instead of a regular gun. Yeah, which might still kill you, but it's just
could kill you. It'd be even worse, man. You
yeah,
catch on fire.
Yeah,
but that goes to why that locker in the very beginning of the movie is all burnt up. That's his locker.
Oh, okay. I didn't make that connection. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. That's such a sad. And again, I knew a kid like Brian whose parents pressured him and where you better get the best grades you can. And like to me that I cannot fathom being someone like that. Like even to my own kids, like I'm grateful my parents were not like that. They wanted me to do good.
Yeah.
But to be like
not that kind of pressure.
Yeah. Oh, what? Your grades slipped a couple points. You bet you're the worst now. You better fix that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then he just wanted to kill himself. Which then, you know, it's funny. Well, it's not funny, but when you watch it and he says, "You know why I'm here is because you know, Mr. Vernon caught me with a gun."
Yeah.
And you're like, wait a minute. And all you got was detention?
Yeah.
The 80s were a wild time. But then you realize, but it was a flare gun.
It was a flare gun, yeah.
Like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So is this John Hughes's letter to the parents out there to...
I think it was.
Probably, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I think...
I mean, it's good for the kids that the kids can kind of connect with each other and not be too hung up on stereotypes and... But yeah, I think it's to the parents mostly.
I think it's a letter to the parents saying like, look, kids go through some crap too.
Yeah.
That you just because they're kids doesn't mean they're not processing and dealing with things. Yeah. And that they could really damage it even further if you're not careful.
Yeah.
No, it's a good movie. I always enjoy watching this movie. I don't watch it a ton, but yeah, just everything worked. And like all the characters, they're, you know, not charisma, but what's the word? When they're working together.
Camaraderie? No.
Yes.
Is it? No.
Chemistry. Their chemistry that they have with all each other.
Yeah.
Just worked well.
John Hughes has that in his movies. When you think of like Ferris Bueller, and you got Cameron and Ferris and Simone. What's the girl's name? Yeah. They just had a chemistry about them that just worked together.
He was really good at casting.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he was really good at casting or if he was just really good at writing characters that would be perfect for these people.
Yeah.
Because, you know, like I said at the beginning, like he had a falling out with Molly Ringwald. He had a falling out with Anthony Michael Hall. Judd Nelson, I guess he never really liked.
Yeah. He was probably difficult,
right?
I would think. Yeah.
And you know, once he had that falling out, and they weren't in his movies anymore, his movies didn't do that great. So he just, I don't know if it's just those were his people, and he liked working with them.
Yeah. The Brat Pack. That's these guys, right? The Brat. But there were more in the Brat Pack. Wasn't like John Cusack, and if you look at Brat Pack, there was like a whole
There's Demi Moore, because there's a really interesting documentary.
Yeah, there was a
on that.
documentary, right? Yeah.
It's gosh, what's his name? The other guy, Andrew McCarthy.
Yeah.
Andrew McCarthy. He does the documentary where he goes back and tries to talk with everybody. I guess he could not get a hold of Judd Nelson, but they all did not like that term.
Yeah, because it wasn't a good thing. Like they didn't like being known as the Brat Pack because
they didn't because they wanted to be serious actors.
Yeah, they just didn't want to be sought as just punk kids that are spoiled.
Right, and that was one of the reasons why Molly Ringwald wanted out of these John Hughes movies, because she felt like she was always going to be
labeled as
a teenage girl movie.
But was she ever in any serious roles after that? I don't know if she was.
I'm sure that, I mean, I know she's
probably
acted.
right.
She was in The Stand. I know that.
Huh.
But this, I mean, you got this movie came out, and I'm pretty sure St. Elmo's Fire came out around the same time, and so that was the catalyst of this group. But when I think Brat Pack, I always think Bratfish Club is number one.
Right. Yeah.
So,
and Anthony Michael Hall's the one that probably had the biggest sort of character change. He kind of turned into kind of a thug guy in
right.
And Edward Scissorhands is like,
that's right.
Oh my gosh, that's Anthony Michael Hall.
Yeah, he became a big dude.
Yeah.
Like he's not, he could beat the crap out of Bender now.
Because he plays the nerdy guy in this one. Yeah. He plays the nerdy guy in 16 Candles. Hilarious nerdy guy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
No, he's not that way no more.
No.
Well, they just celebrated 40 years of this movie.
40 years.
40 years. They just had a reunion. And
what'd they do? Just get around and talk about stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're all still kicking.
I didn't catch any of the videos of them.
Except for the principal. He passed away. R.I.P.
R.I.P.
Yep. All right. Well, are you ready for Trivia Battle?
Nope, not at all.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I just watched it.
Yeah, I did.
I just watched it. I think I'm just going to do that and just see how it goes.
Just how it goes, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mind this guy here. It's all right. It's just more fun when I pass it to you.
Yeah.
The whole moment is great.
It's a shaming moment. Like to get it to when I have to like take it.
Yeah, for you.
It's a shaming moment.
I find it hilarious.
Yeah.
Hey, did you see my new mug? I'm changing up.
That is a nice mug.
Yoda Tiki mug. Yeah.
To go with your Yoda Darth
Yeah, and I did
Vader.
bring that one too.
Yeah.
That's just kind of cool, right?
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I don't know if this is going to stick. I don't know if I'm really digging it. I kind of like the weight and the size of the other one, so we'll see.
Yeah. Well, trying it out.
Yeah. All right, trivia.
All right.
Trivia battle. All right. Michael, as the winner of the last trivia battle, you get to decide who goes first.
You know, in honor of the Breakfast Club, and in honor of, you being that age, I'm going to let you go first.
All right.
All right. Question number 1. What is the date of the day in the movie?
Numbers.
March 25th, 1985.
That is incorrect.
I'm going to steal this one.
March 25th.
I'm going to steal it, and it's going to be March 24th, 1984.
I was only off by...
That is correct.
You were off even on the year.
You were off by 1 day.
Now here's the thing.
The movie came out in 85.
Now here's the thing. I'm watching the movie, and he gives the date. I'm like, that's going to be a trivia.
Yeah.
Question. And I was like...
I do exactly.
And I was like, I'm going to write this down.
Dude, that was the first thing he says.
And I'm like, oh, well, I'll just see if I can remember it. Oh, well.
Okay.
All right.
Next question. What is the license plate number of the only license plate we see during the movie?
That is not true. There's another license plate they do show.
Full license plate.
They do show another one, but I couldn't make it out. I couldn't understand what it was. But the other one was EMC. It was for Brian's car, or Brian's mom's car.
That is
I have no idea what it was. I don't even remember it. Like E equals MC squared. Is that the
Yes.
gag?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is EMC 2.
Yeah. EMC. Yeah. Was Brian's car.
So that would imply that the dad is
It was a mom.
or the mom is a nerd. Well, I mean,
Because the dad who picks him up later on in the movie is actually John Hughes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh. So what did dad?
I thought the janitor was his dad.
That's what. Yeah.
Okay, so that reinforces the nerd.
Yeah, the
side.
other-
there's some pressure there.
The
that if your
other
parents-
license plate you see
forgot the 2.
is oh gosh, what's it? It's Andy's dad's.
We see a partial of it. You don't get to
see the whole thing.
No,
but it
you
didn't
don't
make
get to,
any sense.
I
to
went
me.
back and checked because you didn't see the full plate. The only full plate you see that's up front and center is the EMC2 plate
Uh-huh.
on what I think was a Chrysler. What was the Pentagon?
It's
The
Chrysler.
Dodge.
That's
Chrysler K car, wasn't it? It was
Oh, wasn't it Dodge?
It had the emblem that they don't use anymore.
yeah, that's no longer Chrysler.
Oh.
Yeah,
Which I always thought was a cool hood ornament that they don't do anymore.
yeah, it was your basic. It was like a K car or something. It was like basic everybody's car.
My grandparents had that car.
Yeah, probably inexpensive, basic, no frills. It's all about the science, man. You don't need
Yep.
you don't need a fancy car.
All right. Next question. What does the physics club do at the end of the year?
Is this my question?
Mhm.
Dang. They have a big party and they talk about science questions. Eat potato salad.
I don't. It's not specific enough. I need more specifics.
They have a banquet. They have a banquet.
Okay.
And eat fried chicken.
Where do they have the banquet?
I don't know. I just know that Brian was like excited because, yeah, and at the end of the year, we have a big party and
I think-
we talk about nerdy stuff.
Isn't it the end of the year banquet in the basement?
No.
Has a guess.
I'll give you a half point for getting that it's a banquet, but it's a banquet at the Hilton. They get all dressed up.
Oh, at the
Oh,
Hilton.
at the Hilton, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
He was real excited about that.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's pretty neat.
He's got to wear his dad's shoes.
That's right. There's a banquet. Brian's funny. He was a funny guy.
Yeah.
He just, I had the banquet. I had to wear dad's shoes. And,
I guess he ad-libbed a lot, Anthony Michael Hall.
oh, okay.
And he was so funny, and that he would be just ad-libbing, and they're watching him, and they could all hear that the tape on the camera was out, but they wouldn't stop. They said, "We're not going to stop. We're just so entertained by what he's saying and doing."
Yeah.
And they'd be like, "Mr. Hughes, the cameras, we're not filming. The tape's out." He goes, "I know. Just let it go."
Just let it go. He's funny.
Yeah.
He's a funny kid. Yeah.
All right. Next question. How many extra Saturday detentions did Bender get?
Well, that's a debate because some people say 8, which is the principal, but Brian says 7.
Because he was adding him up.
He says, "No, it's 7, sir." And he goes, "It's 8."
Well, you knew both numbers, so that is correct.
Mm.
Mm.
All right.
I guess I could have went back and counted, but
Yeah.
I went off what they said. All right. And next question. How many sandwiches did Andy have in his lunch?
Oh, my gosh. A lot of sandwiches. All right, I'm just going to have to take a wild guess because I don't really know. So he's pulling the sandwiches out. What's a funny number of sandwiches? I'd say 5. He had 5 sandwiches.
oh,
That is incorrect.
I'm gonna
That
steal.
is way too many sandwiches.
Really?
For
Yeah.
the steal,
along with the
But
sandwiches,
he
he
had
had
other
a
stuff.
bag of chips, a bag of cookies, a banana, an apple,
Yeah.
thing of milk, and
there's a whole
3
carton of milk.
sandwiches.
3 sandwiches? All right. He just kept pulling sandwiches out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you knew the whole lunch. That would have been a good question. I thought I would just go for the number of sandwiches.
I just like the big old bag of cookies. I knew guys that would have multiple sandwiches like that. It'd be massive lunch, but the cookies is with a
big bag of cookies.
Yeah.
All right. Next question. How many hoops does Bender make on the basketball court?
Trying to get a scholarship. 0?
That is incorrect.
That would have been funny if it was 0.
Man. I just think he just got 1.
That's correct.
Oh, right.
Okay. Next question. What room does Andrew go into to smoke? Because he's in a separate room.
It was in the room at the top of the library.
It's your question.
Oh, it's my question?
Yeah.
Oh, it's my. Oh, yeah.
It's the room that he breaks the glass door.
Yeah, it wasn't the. It's written on the door too. I have no idea. I don't know.
Do you concede?
I concede.
Audio visual room?
No, that is also incorrect.
Because it wasn't the room where he was playing the records, where they were not.
No, that was a different room.
That's a different. Yeah, it wasn't that.
Yeah.
It was a different one.
It was the foreign language room.
Foreign language.
Oh man, I never would have gotten that.
No one cares about foreign languages.
Yeah.
All right. Well, do you guys want the bonus?
Very strong.
Do we need it?
No, you don't need it.
I lost soundly.
Well, you lost by 1 point.
Oh, only 1? Oh. I want to know
If
what the
you had
bonus
got-
one is.
if
What's
you-
the bonus
Sure.
one?
What's the bonus one for fun? Just
When
for
John
fun.
is being escorted out of the library, he gives Andrew his sunglasses for what reason?
Oh man, I paid attention to that too because I like what he said. I just thought it was like a really kind gesture.
Gives him sunglasses.
Yeah.
On his way
On
out,
his way out, he says something. It's like, oh, that's really cool. Oh. Well, I can't remember.
I don't know.
he hands him his sunglasses and he goes, for better hallway vision.
Better hallway vision, yeah.
All right. Well, Michael, you have won the Breakfast Club trivia battle.
Oh.
Congratulations.
Now you owe me pancakes.
What?
Breakfast?
Oh.
But more the lunch club. They didn't have breakfast. They had lunch.
Yeah, they did have lunch, huh?
Yeah. But I guess they met at breakfast.
Dang, I thought one thing I really paid attention was like, what was going to be the time that they all showed up at school?
Oh, was there a clock?
Yeah.
You guys gave me too much guff about clock questions.
I did. But well, because you give clock questions, I started paying attention to clock questions.
All right.
All right. Well, what are your final thoughts and a ranking of The Breakfast Club?
It's a good movie in that it's one that just makes you think.
Mm-hmm.
I like movies that just have good character development and just kind of, getting to know each other and stuff. Had a lot of profanity in it, which I'm not a big fan of. However, when it's used appropriately, you can I get it. They're, high school kids in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's well directed, well cast. I mean, everybody did a great job. It's great. Just a movie that makes you think. Really good. I gave it a 7.4.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And that's just like on my, I mean, you can think, oh yeah, this movie is like, it's a 10. I mean, it's a great movie.
Mm-hmm.
But for me personally, on my list of movies, 7.4.
No, yeah,
it's good. Not one I watch a lot, but good movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How about you?
Yes, I think it's a fantastic film, and it hits so many boxes, like you said. Like there's a lot. It's not just a movie. It's not a teen. It's not just a teen movie.
No, it's definitely not. It's you can't categorize it as a teen movie because it's really not.
And it speaks to all levels. I mean, like kids can watch that, and I think it still plays today.
Yeah.
I think kids can still relate to this movie. I think parents can still relate to this movie. Yeah. And John Hughes, credit to him, because so many people told him this movie would not work. It wasn't going to be, when people thought teen movie at the time, it was supposed to be raunchy and a lot of nudity.
Yeah.
And when he pitched this, that's what the studios wanted. And he stuck to his vision, and he made, to me, I think this is his magnum opus. This is his movie.
And that's the thing. When you do a movie like this, which hasn't been done before, you're not going to get a lot of support at the beginning. Right. Yeah. And it worked. Fortunately, it worked for him. Yeah.
And for all these people.
Yeah.
And so, so me an 8.6. Yeah. That's, again, I like how you said, like, it's a great movie. I can see where it could be a 10 on a lot of people's list, but for me personally, yeah. So, Breakfast Club. All right. Thank you for checking us out, and thank you for watching. Again, please let us know what your thoughts on The Breakfast Club, and let us know what you think is, if you were a child of the 80s, was this a pretty accurate film?
Were you the jock? Were you the princess, the nerd,
the brain,
the
basket case,
and the basket case? Which one were you?
That's a good one. Yeah. All right. See you in the next one.